I am off to meet Ted and Margie Fletcher to tour their home and hear their thoughts on gentrification and the growing interest in purchasing property in Bed-Stuy.
Welcome. Come right on in.
Thank you. Oh, wow. This is amazing. Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yes, this is our European African room. Mm-hmm. Because it's, sort of Victorian, European, but we also have the African statues, motifs, etc.
Today what we're doing is looking into African-American home ownership in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Now, you may know this is the largest contiguous area of African-American home ownership in the entire Western Hemisphere.
That I was not aware of.
Yeah, and you are at the center of it as a brownstoner.
Yes.
So let's sit down and talk about it a little bit. So how long have you owned your extraordinarily beautiful home?
Well, Margie came here when we got married. We got married in 1963. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather bought this house in the 30s, 1930s. Mm-hmm. He was an immigrant from India, and his name was Walter Simon. This was his rental property. The family home was on Macon Street, which is 3 blocks down, 2 or 3 blocks down. And my mother and I and my grandmother, we lived on Chauncey Street, right down on Fulton Street. That was his real estate office, Walter Simon's Real Estate.
One thing that people talk about sometimes is the importance of home ownership, not necessarily in stopping gentrification, but in at least giving those who live in a community the choice about whether to sell or leave. Do you see that?
Well, we get offers every day in the mail, on the phone,
yes,
about
we do.
selling the property. And Margie just told one gentleman, she said, "You wouldn't be able to meet my price." And he said, "Oh, what? No, I'm sure we can. Tell me." And what did you tell him?
And I kept saying, "You will not be able to meet my price." So we went over that several times. So he pressed so hard, I said, "Okay, $8 million. And then there was a pause, And he said, "Well, how did you come up with that figure?" I said, "Well, it's a big house." I said, "It's a landmarked house in a landmarked area." He said, "Oh, well, I'll get back to you." And then I said, "Well, you don't have to." I said, "Because we're not really interested in selling." I said, "We have 3 sons, and,
When we're gone, they will take over the house and whatever they want to do.
decide to do." But the middle one is truly interested in keeping the property. And I think the other 2 would be also.
I'd actually love to show people a little bit of your home.
Oh, yes, please do. This is our Japanese room. These prints were from our daughter-in-law's parents into our African room. This is the family room. In addition to being the African room, it's the family room. And this is where we lounge. Mm-hmm. And all of these masks.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They had that old-fashioned sink with the, which I hated because it wasn't flush against the wall. And, so I just wanted that out. And so a window was there, but they made it much nicer than it was.
Oh, wow.
This is
huge.
This is our getaway deck.
Yes. And one of the things I pride myself on is everything you see out here, I planted. I'm so proud of myself.
You should be. Well, it's beautiful, and thank you for showing me
thank you for
the
coming
deck and showing all of us, your incredible history. I can appreciate Ted and Margie wanting to pass their beautiful home on to their sons instead of selling it to strangers or investors.